So we all know who's going to win this division, right? The Giants. Grossi Posse Packer Nation. Welcome to an episode of Packcast, the podcast where you don't have to be a Packers fan, but it sure does help. I'm your host, Tom. Going to the East. Grossi. Again, because I already went to Japan. I don't know where I was going with this intro, but now I can't get out of it.
You guys have to create a diversion.
What do you want me to do? Dress and drag and do the hula?
Ah, you aching?
Yup.
Oh, some bacon!
Yup.
And today we are going to be breaking down and predicting the NFC East. Now, just a reminder of how these things work. So I'll go through each team, talk about their schedule, what they did in the offseason, talk about what they did last season, and predict their floor and their ceiling. And so last year, of course, you had the Super Bowl champs come from the NFC East, which usually just has a different winner every single season. Will that trend continue, or will the Eagles be victorious once again? Let's find out. Starting off with the Washington Commanders. Commanders taking everybody by storm last season. Jaden Daniels looking better than advertised as that team who came into last season with a defense which I was very, very concerned about. Who knows how the run game was going to look like? Let's talk about that offensive line, one of the worst in football. And somehow, some way, they put it all together and not only made it to the postseason, but made it to the NFC Championship game. And I gotta say, I was not anticipating that because last year I had them with a floor of 5-12 and a ceiling of 9-8. Their actual record, 12-5. Jaden Daniels, I'm sorry I didn't believe in you enough. And last season, let's take a look at their stats and how they were able to be so successful because a lot of it came from the offense. They were 5th in points per game scored on offense. They had the 3rd best rushing attack in the NFL, and they were 17th in passing offense. And so the ability to run the football, not only with their running backs, but of course with their mobile quarterback as well, Jaden Daniels, they were able to put up points. And this was really apparent in the postseason when they went toe-to-toe with the Detroit Lions, who had a phenomenal scoring offense. And taking a look at the defense, points per game allowed, they were 18th. They had the 30th worst rushing defense, which is not great, but they had the 3rd best passing defense. And so they were able to lock things down in the secondary. And so while they weren't able to really stop the run, it didn't matter because not only were they able to control things in the backfield, but on top of that, they were able to score points at will. And taking a look at the Commanders heading into this offseason, not only did they have the surprise season that was last year, and I'm so glad that Dan Snyder has absolutely nothing to do with it, but on top of that, they had a whole bunch of money to spend. They went and made a big trade with the Texans for Laramie Tunsil. They got Deebo Samuel, who I have talked about. It doesn't really do anything for me. They also added to the defensive line, and they continued adding to the trenches with Connor Lee Jr., their first overall pick, and they added to their secondary with Trey Amos, who I absolutely love that pick. And so now Commanders fans are kind of in a weird spot, right? There is this joyous celebration that, oh man, not only is Dan Snyder gone, but our team is good, and now we have guys like Von Miller who are coming to chase a ring with us?
What?
We live in crazy times. And taking a look at their schedule, they definitely don't have an easy go of things. They're going to have to go up against teams besides their division, like the Cowboys and the Eagles, who I think are going to be pretty competitive this year. On top of that, the Giants should have a pretty good defense, but they got to go up once again against the Lions. They got to go against the Broncos, who should have a very good defense. They got the Packers. The Falcons should be competitive. They got the Chargers. They got the Chiefs. And oh yeah, they got to play the Eagles twice a freaking fracking year. So it is definitely not going to be a walk in the park. And considering that teams now have more tape on Jaden Daniels, I imagine it's going to be difficult to get back to the level of success that they had last year. I'm not going to say it's a sophomore slump, but based off their opponents, the division that they're in, I don't think it's going to be as easy to get back to that title game as it was last year. Not saying it was easy, but that Hail Mary against the Bears definitely did help. And so with all that being said, I expect the offense to still be pretty damn good if they can continue to have a good run game as long as they pay Scary Terry Looking at you, Washington. They should be pretty good. Scary Terry requested a trade? Their floor I have at 9-8, and their ceiling I have around 12-5. So I have them finishing where they did last year at the very best, and a floor of 9-8, which I think is very respectable. I still think that they are going to be a winning football team, even though some of these opponents are going to be tough, because hey, if they could even split within their division against the Eagles and the Cowboys, I think they will be in good shape. And hell, they are going to be tested before they even get out of the NFC East. Then you got the reigning, defending Super Bowl champs, who are not the Kansas City Chiefs. It's the Philadelphia frackin' Eagles. And the Eagles, I had a good feeling about the Eagles last year, but boy, oh boy, I did not realize that they were going to go this far. Last year, I had them having a 9-8 floor and a 13-4 ceiling, and they're like, nay, we're going to go 14-3. The extra win is against your Packers, and I think it was personal. Just like this year's game is going to be very personal because the whole tush push ban thing. Sorry. But the Eagles were extraordinary last year. You look at that secondary, it was so freaking good. They hit a home run in the draft. Saquon Barkley just being a monster. Jalen Hurts being clutch as hell throughout that postseason. And listen, it was a rocky start to start the season. I remember when Eagles fans wanted Nick Sirianni to get fired. I remember. But taking a look at their stats from last year, they were 7th in points per game scored. They had the 2nd best rush attack in the NFL, and they were 29th in passing. And a lot of people got on Jalen Hurts because of this. And listen, there were times last year where he was inconsistent and he wasn't necessarily winning them football games. But I got to say this with the biggest, who cares? Who cares? Jalen Hurts has proven himself to be a good quarterback. If you don't think so, I don't know what game we're watching because it's obviously not the same. But the fact that he has such a talented roster around him, he has an amazing offensive line, he has great receivers, he has a good running back. Okay, great. He's in a great position. But Jalen Hurts has come through many, many times, including last year, to show that he could definitely be the guy. And their defense, well, that didn't hurt either. They had the 2nd best defense in terms of points per game allowed, the 10th best run defense, and they were number 1 in pass defense. Looking at Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, good God, they were so good last year. Yes, I am jealous that you have them. Please give them to me.
Give me that.
Now, taking a look at what they did in free agency, they lost a few guys. Of course, they lost Williams and Sweat. However, they did draft another athletic monster in Campbell. And on top of that, I think their depth at defensive line is so damn good. I'm very curious to see what Nolan Smith is actually going to be able to do this year, especially if he is healthy. And so taking a look at the Philadelphia Eagles, they are the monster on a lot of teams' lists, right? When I'm talking about tough teams that other opponents are playing, the Eagles, if they're on that list, they are always circled because let's be honest, we know who runs this division.
I like sitting next to you, Sean. Makes me look so tough.
But besides their divisional opponents, they're going up against the Rams, Broncos, and Lions at home. On top of that, there are away games against the Chiefs, the Buccaneers, the Packers, the Chargers, the Bills. These are going to be some pretty damn tough games. Winning the division usually gives you the toughest schedule within the division, unless you're the New Jersey Giants. And here, it is the exact same. So I could actually see them struggling against a few of these teams because there are some Super Bowl contenders on this list. So I think if everything goes wrong, I still think they're around a 10-7 record as their floor. Losing 7 games, I feel like it feels like a lot, especially because I'm still used to the 9-7 format of how teams would be if they lost 7 games. But here, they have that many good quality opponents, and if they split with a team like the Commanders or the Cowboys, it's going to be a little bit difficult. However, I have their ceiling at 13-4 once again. I think that their offense is still really good. They have one of the best lines in football. I mentioned all the weapons that they had, Saquon Barkley coming back, and even though they lost some guys along the defensive line, that secondary should still be really, really good, and they have enough depth, I think, will make up for it. So because of that, I still think the Eagles are going to be the team to beat in the NFC, and may God help us all. Then, this is going to get interesting. You got the Dallas Cowboys. The Cowboys. See, this is a little bit tough because it's tough to judge them because Dak Prescott obviously got hurt last year, so he didn't play the full season. But taking a look at where I had them last year, I had a 9-8 floor and an 11-6 ceiling. They actually went 7-10. Now, did they lose some games with Dak Prescott? Absolutely they did. CeeDee Lamb still putting up some pretty good numbers, but it's really difficult to really grade them considering they lost their franchise quarterback during the season. So I'm not going to hold it too much against them. However, we need to talk about what they've done in this offseason. One, they got Schottenheimer as their coach, which we'll see if that works out. I don't think Schottenheimer was a very hot commodity during this free agency period. However, it's someone that Jerry Jones decided upon. And when has Jerry Jones ever been wrong? Yep, that was said with some sarcasm. I am so sorry.
Wait, what happened with Micah Parsons?
But I will give the Cowboys a lot of credit because I actually really like what they did in their offseason. I don't know if they fully addressed the running back position. They're going to have to hope that Blue is really good or that Javonte Williams could really kind of reignite that spark that he had at least for a second in Denver, but I'm not 100% sure about that. What I do like, though, is the fact that they got Tyler Booker, so now they have a trinity of Tylers, and that could never go wrong. On top of that, drafting Ezeraku and getting an actual pass rusher, I think could do wonders for their defense to have someone besides Micah Parsons, who they still haven't paid yet as of recording this, but they paid Jake Ferguson, so that's something, I guess. And of course, they went and got George Pickens. They have been in desperate need of a wide receiver too. Brandon Cooks was not going to be reliable enough to be that guy. So I do think that they have addressed some major points on their team. We'll see how it translates here. It's tough to really gauge their offense on their stats last year, considering they lost Dak Prescott. They were 21st in points per game scored. They had the 27th worst rushing attack, which is not great, and that's where my concern comes from at the running back position. And they were 11th in passing offense, CeeDee Lamb being a huge part of that. And taking a look at the defense, it's not any prettier. They were 31st in points per game allowed. They were 29th in rushing defense, and they were 17th in passing defense. And so those numbers, definitely not pretty. Now, of course, they did get hit with a bunch of injuries last year. I know Micah Parsons missed some time, so I'm not going to fully judge them off of a kind of skipped season last year. However, there are some points that I hope are addressed this upcoming year. And taking a look at their schedule, it is not a walk in the park. Besides those divisional opponents like the Commanders and Eagles, who are definitely going to be a challenge, they got to go up against the Green Bay Packers. They got to go up against the Cardinals, who they always have a problem with. They got to go against the Chiefs at home, the Vikings, if they're any good with JJ McCarthy, the Chargers. And taking a look at their away games, it's a little bit easier, but they got to go against the Broncos and the Lions, who are going to be a problem, I think, at least on defense for the Broncos, and it's always very difficult to play in Colorado. And the Lions, well, they're a good team as long as their offensive linemen are actually eligible. So looking at the Cowboys this year, I think that offense should be pretty damn good. It's just going to be a matter of, are they going to be balanced? I think Dak should have some pretty good protection this year. And on top of that, as long as he is healthy, he should put up a whole bunch of yards and hopefully touchdowns. And so here I have them having a floor of 8 and 9 if everything goes wrong. Schottenheimer, like I said, not proven as a head coach at all. And there are still some concerns about that defense and that running game that I can't shake. I have them having a ceiling of 11 and 6. So I still think that they could do a pretty nice job this season. I still think they could be playoff contenders. And if guys can contribute early, like Ezeraku or George Pickens, this team really could be good and they can score at will. There's a lot of ifs, buts, and maybes, but listen, you're not a Cowboys fan if you don't think this year is your year.
You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
And finally, you got the New Jersey Giants. The Giants. Giants fans are just trying to prepare themselves and really take in the fact that Russell Wilson is likely to be their starting quarterback to start the season.
I don't have a headache. I'm just preparing.
Let's ride.
I'm so very sorry. And last year did not go great. I had them having a 4-13 floor with an 8-9 ceiling. Turns out they were even worse. They went 3-14. And honestly, I don't even think the record is the worst thing. The worst thing is that you had to watch Saquon Barkley go to the Philadelphia Eagles, see that played out on Hard Knocks, and then ultimately win a Super Bowl with your division rival. I think that was absolutely worse. And taking a look at the Giants, what they did in this offseason, they have been a bit busy. They have added to that secondary with Holland, and they've done a nice job of rebuilding that secondary a bit. It was a bright spot last year. They also got Golston on the line, and on top of that, of course, with their draft, they drafted Abdul Carter, who I am super excited to actually see. They drafted Scatabo to try and get a running game back, and of course, they also drafted Jackson Dart. So their quarterback room is very interesting, and there's a lot of room for improvement for where they were last season. Last year on offense, they were the second worst team in the league in in terms of points scored per game. They were 31st. They ranked 23rd in rushing attack and 28th in passing attack. So it can't really get much worse. Technically, you go down to 32, but yeah, you shouldn't want to do that. Then on defense, they were 21st in points allowed per game. They were 27th in run defense, and they were 8th in passing defense. And so, like I said, their passing defense was actually pretty damn respectable last year. It was pretty darn good. It was in the top 10. So if they're able to get after the quarterback with Abdul Carter and Dexter Lawrence, this defense could cause a ton of problems this year. Their offense, well, the only place you can go is up. But again, they also have a vicious schedule. Their home schedule, they got to go against tough teams besides the Eagles and the Commanders and the Cowboys. They got to go against the Chiefs, the Chargers, if the 49ers are any good, the Packers, the Vikings could be pretty good, and then all their division rivals. They do not have a good home schedule. Then you look at away, they got to go against the Broncos, they got to go face the Lions, and they have some other teams that maybe they'll be able to win against, but it is going to be a potentially rough season, especially if none of their quarterbacks wind up working out. So, all of that being said, I have their floor pretty damn low at 5-12. I do think that defense could cause enough problems that they're just a pain in the ass for other teams, and that might be able to sneak away a few wins, even if they're not scoring a ton of points. And their ceiling, I have up at 8-9. I'd be a little bit surprised if they were able to get a winning record or to win about 9 games. I think 8 games is right around where I think they're going to be, but if their defense is able to take some major strides and their offense is doing pretty well besides just the quarterback position, they might be in position to actually draft a QB next year if needed. And so because of that, while I don't think it's going to be a very good season for the Giants, not just because of the roster, but also because of the quality of their opponents and the division that they're in, yeah, I'm just sorry. I got nothing else. I'm just sorry, Giants fans. And so if things play out the way that I predicted, number 1, you'd have the Eagles, 2, the Commanders, 3, the Cowboys, and 4, the Giants. But of course, let me know what you think down in the comments below. You know, I saw me at TomGrossiComedy.com, and a big shout out and thank you to all the Patreon members and YouTube members for supporting this channel. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tom Grossi, and as always, go Pack Go.